Hello friends, this is Sriman Telgave and this is part 3rd of ASP.NET MVC 5 tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to understand controller in ASP.NET MVC 5. So in this tutorial we are going to cover how to create the ASP.NET MVC 5 application using Visual Studio 2017, and second point we are going to cover how to create the controller in MVC 5, controller detail in ASP.NET MVC, and also we are going to understand what is the action method. We can understand how to call the controller and action method from the browser, and next we are going to understand the flow of controller in ASP.NET MVC, and also we are going to understand how to change the default controller and default view, how the default controller and action get executed. So these all are the points we are going to cover in this tutorial one by one. So we are going to understand the theoretical and practically. So first we are going to cover how to create the application using the Visual Studio 2017. So step first is open the Visual Studio 2017, go to File, New, and click on the project. So we will go with the practically. Open the Visual Studio 2017. So this is the Visual Studio 2017. So click on the file, go to New, click on a project. So you will get one dialog. So in this case you can see in the left side panel you have a list of atom, the Visual C#, Visual Basic, Visual F#, and there are lot of things. So we are going to with the Visual C#. So click on the Visual C# and click on the web. Inside the web you will find out the two templates. Select the ASP.NET web application and provide the required meaningful name. I am providing MVC 5 controller demo and click on OK. So in the next dialog you will see there are list of default template, and after selecting the empty template you need to select the MVC checkbox inside the list of folder and click on OK button. So you can see there are list of there are lot of folder created by default. So the app_data, app_start, controller, model, view, and there are a lot of files created automatically while creating the ASP.NET MVC 5 application. So we have created the ASP.NET MVC 5 application using Visual Studio 2017. The next we will go with how to create controller. So how to create controller in ASP.NET MVC 5. Right click on the controller folder, click on add and select the controller. So you can find out the ASP.NET controller empty folder. Select this and click on add. So provide the meaningful name, and you should be remember always while creating the controller you need to write the controller as a suffix. First we will understand from the programmatically what is the controller and what are the default methods inside the controller. We will going with the practically, then we will go with the theoretical parts so you can understand easily. So this is the default action method get created automatically, and you can see this is the home controller, and the home controller is a normal C# class. The extension of this is a .cs, and if you go with the controller inside this, go to the definition, you can see the controller class is inherited from the controller base class, and controller base class or the controller is inside the system.web.muc namespace. And controller base class, right click on the controller base and go to the definition. You can see the controller base class is an abstract class, and it can contain the abstract and non-abstract method. So it can contain the temp data, validate request, value provider, view bag, view data, and execute core. So these all are the method inside the controller base class. So controller can contain the action and non-action method. So this is the action method. So first we will go with the, this is we have went through what is the and what is the controller. We are actually we are understand the programmatically, so we can understand from the theoretically as well. So what is controller in ASP.NET MVC? So first, controller can contain action and non-action method. So you can see this is an action method. So we can also create the non-action method like private, a return type I will say string, and I will say message count, and parameter string str, and return str message dot split, and I will split with space and dot length. I'll return this as a integer. So this is a non-action method, and this is a action method. So controller can contain the action and non-action method. First point we have covered the practically as well. It is used to handle the user request coming from the browser. So the controller is used to handle the user request. So after completing the controller, then we will go with how actually the controller handle the user request. We will go after completing this theoretically part. We will go with practically. So controller, it will check the user request from the browser, identify the appropriate action method, and based on the action method it will return the respective view to the browser. And a controller is inherit from the controller base class. Just we have seen the controller is inherited from the controller base class, and controller base class is an abstract class. So it contains the abstract and non-abstract method. So, and the controller base class is inside the system.web.muc namespace. So while creating, you need to remember that the controller it always suffix as a controller keyword. So if you are going to create the home controller, the suffix should be the home controller. For example, employee controller, student controller, the suffix should be the controller keyword. Next point is the default controller is a home controller, index is a view. So just we have seen after creating the home controller, the view index view is automatically created by default. So these all are the points of about the controller in ASP.NET MVC. So next we are understand what is the action method. So first point is action method must be public method. So you can see here the action method should be a public. If it is a private or protected, it can be a non-action method, but action method must be a public method. Next, action method cannot be private or protected method. If it is a private or protected, so it can be considered as a non-action method. Action method cannot be overloaded, so we cannot overload the action method in MVC. Action method cannot be a static. If we provide the static keyword, then it will throw an exception. You can see here we cannot provide the static keyword to the action method. Action method cannot contain ref and out keyword. So it is in the MVC, the action method cannot support the ref and out keyword. If you provide the ref and out keyword as a parameter into the action method, then it will throw an exception while executing the action method. So the program is successfully built, but while if you are call the action method from the browser, then it will throw an exception. So the ref and out parameter is not support in action method. So last, the syntax of creating the action method. So public, return type, method name, and list of parameter, and we can need to write the logic. So just we have created this two action method. So we will create one more action method like public, return type is a string, and we can say method name is a message and integer ID. I will check if ID equal to 1, then it will return some message. I will simply say this is first message. Second, we can say this is default message. So you can see we have created one more action method, public, return type is string, method name message, and we have taken one integer parameter. And to understand more detail, we will create one more action method, string, and I will say name and take the parameter string name with the name, and we can simply return one message welcome and whatever we have passed the string from. So we have created the method public, return type is string, method name is a print, and we have taken the string as a parameter, and simply we have written welcome and whatever provided name into the action method. So this is the very simple action method we have created to understand the action and action method as well as the controller flow. And one more point you should be remember, action method by default get method. And we will check the return type of the index method, and we will simply return one message. I will simply say welcome to programming with Sri. So simply we have created one this is the default index method. So we have modified this return type. We have given the string and return one string to this method, and also we have created one more method, public string message, and there is the one more method name as a print having some string parameter. So first we will execute the program and see how to execute. So first, to execute the program, either you can press the F5 or click on the IS Express here. So it will take some time to create the project and load all the libraries, and it will render the default view to the browser. So default view is the index. You can see here the first index method is executed and display the message welcome to programming with Sri. So this is the default index method. It is called after executing the program. So you can see here, if you want to debug this action method, set the cursor here and press the F9 key, or here as well you can set the cursor and press the F9 key. Then you can see the debugger hit by default to the index method. It is not hitting the message. Why it is executed the default index is, we will see after this. Press F10 and click on continue. Yeah. So how to call the controller? There are different ways how to call controller and action method. First, we can call with domain name. So if you directly enter the domain name, then the default controller and default action method get executed and display the result on the browser. So second way is we can also provide the domain name / controller name. It will also display the default, it will also execute the default controller and default action method and display the result on the browser. So next, third way is the fully qualified URL. So you can provide your domain name / controller name / view name. So for example, in my system we can say localhost / home controller / view name is a index view name or message as per our requirement. Whatever the view name we have, we can provide into the URL. So first way, we can use only the localhost and / it will execute the default controller and default view. Second, we can also use the our domain name / controller name like localhost / home / index. This is the fully qualified URL, localhost / home / index. And second way to execute the fully qualified name with having the parameter localhost / home / index /1. One is the ID parameter to the index action method. And if you want to pass the string parameter, then or there is one more way to pass the ID into the action method by using the query string. So we can say localhost slash controller name slash index view name question mark id equal to whatever the value, and so we can also pass the string to the action method by using this localhost slash home slash index question mark message, this is the parameter name, equal to whatever the string we need to pass, we can pass here. So these are the way how to call the controller and action method in ASP.NET MVC 5. So we will go with the practically, and we will learn, we will execute one by one. We will only provide the domain name, then we can only provide the domain name slash controller name, and we will check how the result is came us and how the response is URL. So we will go with the practical. So you can see I have provided only the domain name and I have pressed the control. So the default index is executed, right? It is executed and it will simply display the welcome to programming with Sri. This is the message. And one more way to call the controller, I will simply say home controller slash and I will press the enter. It will execute the default same, and I will provide the fully qualified name localhost slash controller name slash view name. I have provided index view name. Press the enter. You can see it will hit. There are three ways to execute the index method, and I will change the action method. I will now provide the message is the action method, but message having some integer parameter we need to pass while calling the message action method. So this is the message action method. There are two way. One way we can pass slash and whatever the ID, I will pass 1 and press the enter. You can see the message method is executed and it will call, and you can see ID, it will say ID is a 1. If the ID is 1, I will simply return this is the first message. So this is the only for the understanding purpose how the controller is work and how to call the action method. So it is not the real-time example. So to understand the more detail of controller and action method, so I have given all these examples and created the different type of action method. So execute this. So you can see this is in first message. So I will provide message slash 2 or 3 and press hit. It will come, and ID is not 1, then it will execute the else case and it will return the default message. You can see this is a default message. And there is one more case. You can see we have one more method called a print, or there is one more way to call the to pass the ID by using the query string like question mark the parameter name equal to 1. You can see it will hit ID is equal to 1. It will return the appropriate string and display into the browser. This is first message. We can pass 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 as per our requirement. How to pass the string to the action method? How to pass the string? So what is the action method? Action method is simple print. Print is our action method. Question mark parameter name is name, and I will simply pass the name Sri and I will enter. So you can see Sri name, and I will return welcome whatever the name, and you can see welcome Sri. So this is the way you can pass whatever the string you want to. It will execute, it will pass the string and return. Yeah, so what we can do, so now we can understand the flow of ASP.NET MVC controller. So this message count I will use inside the message action method. So I will change the return type integer to string. I will return some message. And I will use this method, message count method, inside this. So we can easy to understand the flow of controller. Message count. So practically we have went through the what is the controller. Controller is identify the user request. So how it can identify the it can controller is handle the user request, and based on the user request it will execute the appropriate action method. We can run the program, press F5 either, or click on the IS Express. So default action method is executed, index. So now you can understand the flow. User enter the URL into the browser like localhost / controller name home / and a message index name / and 1, whatever the ID. User enter the URL into the browser. The browser send the request to the server, and server send the request to the controller. Controller identify the appropriate action method and execute the action method. So in our case, message is an action method. It is executed and it is passed if the action method is an database related operation. For example, I want to get the data from database, or I want to get some student information or employee information or the meeting information from the database. Then we can write all the database related operation inside the model folder, call from the controller, and whatever the operation performed in the model, it will return the response to the controller. Or in our case, you can consider the message count method. This method is inside the model folder. Now we can consider only this is not actually inside the model folder, but as of now we have created message count method inside the controller. But to understand the flow in programmatically, you can only consider as of now the message count method is inside the model folder, and it perform some database related operation. For example, I'm providing some string and it will split this string and return the length of the string. So if the action method has a database related operation, then it will send the request to the model. For example, this is sending the request to the model message count. The request is sent to the model and model performs some operation. For example, it is performing some database related operation like splitting the string, split this string and provide the length of the string. So in the real time we can actually perform some database related operation, or we can write the database related logic here. So as of now, to understanding purpose, we have created some dummy method inside the controller. So the request goes to the model performs some database related operation like splitting the string and return the response to the controller back here. And controller identify the appropriate view. For example, in this case we haven't created the view. For example, it is a return is the message and appropriate view and return the response to the browser. It will return the response to the browser like message length is equal to 5. So this is the total flow of controller. So if you understand this flow, then you can easily understand the ASP.NET MVC application easily. So one more time we can debug the application. I am passing the to, entering request send, the user enter the URL into the browser, send the request to the controller. Controller identify the appropriate action method, and based on the action method, if the action method has database related operation, then it will send the request to the model like here message count, and model perform some database related operation and return the response to the controller like here, and controller return the appropriate view to the browser. Message length is equal to 4. So this is the very simple flow of ASP.NET MVC controller and action method. So we have understand how the controller works and how to execute the controller and action method as well. And also we have created the non-action method and action method as well. So next step is flow of ASP.NET MVC controller. Just we have went through the programmatically, and now we can go with the theoretically. So to understand the flow of ASP.NET MVC controller or ASP.NET MVC. So first, the user enter the URL into the browser. Browser send the request to the controller, and controller execute the appropriate action method. If the action method has a database related operation, then it will send the request to the model. Model perform some database related operation and return the response to the controller, and controller execute the appropriate view and return the response to the browser. So this is a very simple flow of ASP.NET MVC controller. So next point is how to change the default controller and view. So first we need to create one more controller. I'm going to create one more video on the action method. So in a depth if I pass the ref and out keyword, if I pass the static, and if I overload the method, what the exception is occurred, and what are the exception, different type of exception occurred while creating the while overloading the action method and while passing the ref and out keyword or static keyword. These all detail with theoretical as well as programmatically I will be explained in the next tutorial in this series. So do not worry about that. Change the default controller and view. You need to create one more controller. So click add, select the add, and you can select the MVC controller empty. Click on add, provide the meaningful name. I'm providing the employee controller. Click on add. It will create the employee controller and default is the action index action method. So I will change the return type here. I will say simply string, and so I will simply return the string like this is index method from employee controller. So simple message I have written, this is index method from employee controller. So to understanding purpose, how to change the default controller. So if you see previously without providing, so let's run this program and see. First we will go with how to call the different controller except the home. So in this we have created the employee controller. First we will call the employee controller and see what is the result, and we will also go with to understand how to change the default controller settings. So you can see here, so I'm not passing, so you can see here I'm not passing any controller name or view name. It is by default it is executed the index method from the home controller. So how it is executed, so I will show you how it is executed. First we will call the different controller except the home controller. In this case we have created the employee controller and index is view is a index. Press the enter. So sorry, please provide the correct name, employee / index. You can see this is a index method from employee controller. So we can also pass the different controller. You can see here we can easily pass the different controller, employee / index, but default if I execute the program, it will automatically call the default controller like home controller. Inside the home controller there is a index method default, so it is executed automatically. How it is executed, let's first we will debug. So open the global.asa file. So set the debugger here first. So if you execute the application, first request came to the global ASA file and it will execute the application underscore start, and inside the application underscore start we have register the register route method. Right click, go to the definition, and you can see here here is the default configuration inside the routeconfig.cs class. So you can see the name of the route is a default route. This is the default route, and the URL expression is controller/action/id. So just we have seen the controller name is the home controller. We have passed slash the action method like the index and /id. And the default configuration, you can see the controller name is the home controller. Default it is executed the home controller. And the action method is the index action method. So we can change any method. So if I want to display the message default, then I will provide the message index method or message action method default. And so you can see first id is an optional parameter. So if I does not pass the id, it does not throw any exception. So that's why we only provide the controller name, then it will execute by default the index method automatically. We no need to pass the id parameter each and every index method. It is an optional parameter. So you have understand this is the route configuration, this is the routing. So if you want to change the default controller, then you only need to change here the controller name, employee, or this. So first we will debug, then you can understand easily. So first only I will, so to run this need to rerun the application because the request is came for only first time. So I will run this application. The request first goes to inside the global.asa file and it execute the application_start, and inside the application_start we have the register route method. So if you debug this, and inside the register route method all the default configuration is written inside the register route method. So default, the name default is the name of the route is default, URL expression it will execute the default is the home, and index it will return, and then it will return the appropriate action. So this is the default configuration. So how can we change the default configuration? We can see. So we can change the controller, default controller, like the employee. Here we have change and also provide the default action method is index. So you can see here employee controller. Inside the employee controller we have created the public string index method, and we have written this message. If I run the program, first I will remove the debug. You can see if I execute without providing any controller name and index method, it is executed the index method from employee controller. So this is the way we can change the default controller and action method.